Hello and welcome back to 100% Real with Ruby. Today we have Matt Bolton, who actually not only coaches clients in person, but he owns a kitchen. So he sees people coming in all the time, inquiring about certain products, talking about their diets. And when they do diet recalls, there's a typical, oh, I ate really clean, but I'm not seeing results. And as a lot of you may know from seeing my posts, I'm very big on eating as much food as you can. And when you actually try to diet, eating more food. And by more food, it's actually more of a particular type of food. And we are going to go into more detail about that because these people say they don't eat that much. They pick all the healthy foods, but little do they actually know the nutritional content of the foods that they choose. So we're going to clear up a lot of things that people struggle with, that are just starting on the journey, or that feel like they are doing everything right, but still not seeing results. Especially if you are a smaller human, a smaller female like myself. So here's Matt. You'll get a really good idea of what he does through our conversation as well, because he adds a lot of spark to this. So let's take it away.
Well, thank you. So I think, to begin with, the biggest struggle that we see here, the biggest concern is that they have this mismatch of what health food actually brings to the table. They, like you said, they feel like they're eating healthy, and we're choosing foods that should provide a lot of health. But if you have a goal of weight loss, you still need to know how much to eat. Now we can have better options, but you still need to know how much you need. And in the truth is, if you are smaller and you have very low activity levels outside of training, you don't need that much food. We need enough to support the training and the goals and the recovery, but you don't need that much. And we can have enough food with good quality choices and the right approach to that. And that's why we deal mostly with flexible dieting. We really do like that approach. It builds a lot of consistency and a lot of damn, I just lost one word. It helps people reach their goal really well, really quickly. They get to understand the food really well in a very logical sense. Like, we don't like to put labels on foods, as I know you do as well. You don't like to label good food, bad food. Food is food. Food is information. And the more that we can teach clients that regardless of the food choice, it has an approach to whatever goal you're going to choose. If you want a performance goal, then you can have a little bit extra of these types of foods. If you want a weight loss goal, then you need to have this little, you need to choose more foods from this option. And it tends to be that a lot of people just don't know the quality of the quantity that they're getting, even though they think that they're eating quality. Now, here in Bali, it's very easily done. People are relatively healthy, but the lifestyle here doesn't really equate to much activity because there's not much walking done. People don't do a lot of walking or a lot of activity. There are a lot of digital nomads, so they spend a lot of time on the computer, or they just have a scooter, so they scoot back and forward to the gym or they go down to the beach. And when they're on the beach, they don't do a lot. They sunbathe, or they drink coconuts, or they drink margaritas, sangria, and all that kind of stuff.
I just want to interject with something you said there.
Right.
There was a very important thing you said. They don't walk a lot, but you did tell me that before we started this whole conversation, we were talking about how people smash themselves in the gym. They do like big workouts, sweating themselves off because thinking that that's the best way to get results. And then they go and head off to the health food place.
Yeah.
But they spend the rest of the day pretty much sedentary. Now, you actually do not burn that much energy in a workout compared to what you do in a whole day. That's like 1 to 2 hours max. What you do the rest of the day counts the most. Now, what are these people doing after their workouts? And maybe you can touch a little bit more on the fact that actually trying to train to burn calories does jack shit if you're sedentary most of the day.
So, I mean, yeah, a lot of the times as well, they are, they're going to the gym. They believe that going to the gym for 90 minutes to 2 hours, 5 days a week is doing them a service, which, if you are training right with the right intensity, you don't need 2 hours. Now maybe if you're compensating for the lack of activity outside, and you're doing, that's also incorporating some of your NEAT, let's say it. They're doing their training and then they're just covering their bases with a little bit of low level intensity. I can get that, but they're predominantly doing low intensity resistance training, not really pushing themselves hard, but for longer duration, lots of cardio. And then, they go to these restaurants that I call them kind of fake health restaurants. They promote these protein pancakes where they don't even put like protein in them. But they are like 1,000-calorie serving pancakes, and then you add the toppings as well. So then then you add your lattes and your coconut waters and all of that stuff on top of that, which, it's, as you said, training doesn't burn that much. And the more you do the same amount of training or the same training, the less your body's going to burn of that. So if you've been doing one thing for 6 months and you've not seen change, then maybe it's time to change something,
And maybe actually look into what you're consuming and what you're doing the rest of the day, because at the same time, people think they train hard, but they really don't. And it might not even be the program that's the issue. It might be the fact that you're not putting enough intensity in. So, hey, I don't feel smashed by the end of this. I'm going to chuck in some extra stuff so then I can reward myself at the shop. But hey, you just said 1,000-calorie servings, and you're mentioning coconut water. You're mentioning protein pancakes. You even mentioned a smoothie bowl to me before, which we're going to talk about what these smoothie bowls consist of, because people think that, hey, it's got some bananas in it, it's got this in it, or it's so healthy. I'm eating healthy. Imagine, like, actually close your eyes and imagine the size of a plate of just pancakes. Add on a smoothie. Really easy to drink, probably swishes down the side, doesn't touch the sides. And then add on all the toppings. Hardly eating, but you're eating a lot. So what exactly do these healthy foods consist of? And how can we avoid making these nutritional mistakes? Like, what do we need to be aware of?
So, I mean, a lot of the restaurants will, if you ask for the ingredients, they'll give you the stuff. But, outside of us, we give all of our ingredients, and we give all of the macros, calories and everything. And we've designed the menu in a way that people can see and choose stuff aligned with their goals. We have smoothies that are low in calories, low in sugar, low in carbs. We have ones that are high in calories and high in carbs, and all of them have a standardized protein serving. And we go to this other health restaurant, and they're promoting this protein shake, and they say, 40 grams of protein in this shake. Okay, great. And they post-workout, good. And you have these, 49, 52 kilo females wanting to lose weight. They're going to get this 40 gram of protein, this shake, after training. But then when you look into the ingredients and you find out that it's got a cup of oats, 2 bananas, almond milk, and everything, and probably some peanut butter as well. Yes, you're getting 40 grams of protein, but you're also getting close to 100 grams of carbohydrates in this. Not that carbs are bad, but if they're not aligning that with everything else that they're doing throughout the day, it's throwing them off, from their total daily stuff. So again, they're thinking that they're being healthy, which is a good thing, just trying to be aligned with health, but not understanding what is coming into these smoothie bowls, these shakes, or these health foods can be a real problem, especially with if you're saying, we hear this a lot, I'm trying to be sugar-free. I don't eat anything processed. Okay. So let's have a look at your smoothie bowl. How come it's got 3 bananas in it? We know that banana has sugar and it has carbs. So if you're trying to be sugar-free, but you're eating 3 bananas in a smoothie bowl, try eating 3 bananas on their own. You probably won't be able to do it, and you'll be saving yourself from some calories for later on, and you'll be able to enjoy a whole bunch of other foods as well, rather than just having that smoothie bowl.
I guess this is exactly what I'm going on about all the time in my posts even you in the things that you say as well. It's, we want to be able to eat more food for less. And if you actually have a smoothie with all of these different ingredients and you're struggling to lose weight, why don't you take out those ingredients and spread them throughout the day? When we are trying to lose weight, we neglect that. We neglect the fact that simple things done well yield the best results. And instead of just focusing on, I want to lose this much weight, or I want to weigh this much, you need to focus on the habits and behaviors that get you there. You need to actually be clear on those actions. And we both touch on this in everything that we say, especially because you work in a kitchen. It's meal prep, meal planning. It is probably the most important thing that you can do. Now, we're going to actually go a little bit more into depth on this, because I know, for example, I was very overwhelmed with the concept of meal prepping. And I will actually talk a little bit more on this for myself, and then I'll let you talk on it, because I'm going to put up a meal prep post today and I'm going to mention our podcast in it. But when it comes to meal prep, all you can think of is the work that needs to be done, the time it's going to take, and how much labor is put into that day of meal prepping. But what you do not consider is, if you add up all the time you spend in the kitchen throughout the week, that shit adds up. But what you're also not accounting for throughout that week, because you don't remember it in the spur of the moment, because the emotion of being overwhelmed by meal prep takes away all the rest. But within that week, you're having decision fatigue, trying to figure out what the hell you want to eat. You might get sick of a meal. You might feel stressed one day. You might feel tired one day and grab the chips, grab this. But if everything is meal prepped and it's there, it's going to be that much easier for you to stick to your goals. And a lot of people who lack meal prep and who don't have a coach will always struggle to get their best results, because I can honestly say 95% of people who come to me and who come to Bolts do not eat enough protein. Because maybe the protein pancakes are called protein pancakes, but they have like 15 grams of protein in it. And that 40-gram shake may have 40 grams of protein, but what are you eating for the rest of the day? You can't just say, I'm getting 40 grams in a meal. Cool, protein dose, I'm going to get results. What are you doing the rest of the day? And it's usually, I put a questionnaire out and everyone says it's the evening where they struggle. And in the evening, it's usually, I have no time, let's grab some crisp, let's get quick food, let's get carbs, let's get fats. And little do people actually grab protein. So yes, meal planning can be boring. It can be time consuming, but if you do it right, it is probably the most sustainable thing that you can do. And to me, I didn't believe that. I will be on your level. I hated it. I didn't like it whatsoever, but I had to change something. Matt said it himself.
Yeah.
If you're not getting where you want to go and you're struggling emotionally with what's going on, because I'm a nutritionist, I was still eating properly, but my habits weren't aligned with the person I wanted to be. I was nibbling. I was not having set meal times, which has always been what I wanted. I was never feeling satisfied after my meals. I was eating everything I should have, and it was all tracked, but I just wasn't happy with the way I was going, because to me, I wanted to have shit prepped. And then at the start of the year, I went cold turkey, and I'm like, no, I'm just going to prep my meals. I didn't want to do it, but one tip that I have is get yourself excited about it. Make this excitement. I do it whenever I don't even feel like training. I talk myself into it. Your self-talk is powerful. And you don't have to buy fresh food. Get frozen veggies, get frozen fruit, get tinned fruit, drain it. Get jarred veggies, drain it. Make shit easy for you. If you don't want to chop things up, put in the extra money and get pre-chopped veggies. If you don't want to chop up your protein, get pre-chopped protein, but then you're going to have to actually scan the barcode and stuff. Like, there are different ways to go around it to make it easier for you. Flavor your food. You're allowed to have low calorie dressings. You're allowed to have lemon and herbs and spices and salt. Yes, eat your damn salt. Like, that shit has made it easier for me. And I don't spend time doing weird movements on the stove. I put shit in the microwave. I leave shit going in the microwave. Rice cooker, pressure cooker, air fryer, whatever you want. I just use an air fryer. I just use a microwave over and over. And I do one thing in the pan, and that's just boil my pumpkin, because I can have the pumpkin going while my chicken's going in the air fryer, and the chicken's also going in the microwave, because I just fill up the containers and it boils, it poaches. So maybe you can tell us, especially because this is your jam, tell us more about how we can make meal prep easier for us, and things to think about, and why it is so important. And then compare the results, I guess the results and the mindset and the behaviors and all that stuff to people who have a plan, meal prep, and how meal prep can mean different things to different people.
So, I mean, we have to look at the individual and their lifestyle as well, So when it comes to meal prep, a single male or a single female with a 9 to 5 or an online job or something like that is going to have a little bit more freedom towards their meal prepping than, say, a full-time working mom with kids and stuff. But from with a couple of examples, I have a young lad that I'm working with that, we deal with strictly kind of like one-pan meals. Not the best cook, but we get chicken, we get some veggies, we get rice, and we put it in one pan with some stock. And if you're gonna make one meal, you may as well make 4 or 5. That's what I try to say. If you're gonna do one, you may as well 4 or 5, portion it up. I saw your stories or your post yesterday about the meal prep as well, or the other day, and you had like all of the things that it looked very similar. And there's nothing wrong with eating the same thing. You can spice the same thing differently. So yes, it may be the same thing, but it may taste very different. You have paprika on one potatoes, and you have cayenne pepper on the other one. It's going to taste very, very different, But so in that instance, for this guy, we're using his skill level and his ability to buy some frozen foods, keep it for a long time, chuck in some frozen peas, chuck in some chicken, chuck in some stock, chuck in some rice. We've got 5 meals made for the week, and he doesn't have to think about it, Eggs in the morning, we're making up a big pot of eggs, and we split those between the 5. Very, very simple. Spice it very different, low calorie condiments on top of that, and we've got our meal prep really simple for that. But we're using his skill and his ability to do that to make it more effective for him. On the other hand, I've got a mother who works as a nurse, shift work, 2 kids. And for her, we implement cooking with the kids on a Saturday and Sunday. So over the weekend, she actually gets the kids into the kitchen with her, and they learn about the foods as well. So they're prepping and everything together and making menus and making stuff and spending time together. So it's not taking away time from the family. So they're using that time to build a better relationship with food at a young age, and also building the relationship within the family. And she's now creating a family environment that's built around healthy food, planning and prepping for herself and making sure that she is sticking to her goal, but also being able to give all the care and attention to her family so she doesn't feel extra stress from taking away time from the kids. So, we have to look at those individuals. And I mean, my top tips for meal planning, really, write out a shopping list, write out the top 10 foods that you enjoy, and search menus, use or meals using those foods, and choose maybe 4 or 5 of them to rotate on a weekly basis, and once a week or once a month, whatever fits into the schedule or the lifestyle, is to choose a new one, choose something new, and keep your menus ever expanding. I don't think it's, you can eat the same foods, but it's also nice to try new things, because, as we know, if we stay too much with one thing, that's where we're going to, want to binge on something, or we want to, just, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And before we know it, that little bit and this and little bit of that has become a lot of that and a lot of this. So if we, but it's also incorporating that stuff in, you talk about this a lot, where it's, and we talk about this with our clients online and here in Bali, where it's like, you can have these foods, you just mentioned it before. We can have these foods. We can have pretty much any food that we want, as long as it aligns with the goal. If it doesn't align with the goal, and the goals will change. You don't have to be in a weight loss for 12 years. You shouldn't be in weight loss for 12 years. If you want weight loss for 12 years, you're doing something wrong, right? But as the goal goes from weight loss to performance to strength, it is ever changing. So yes, you may go through a little bit of a low carb, higher fat approach. Then you may go to higher carbs, and you can enjoy all those high carbs when you are looking for different goals, and those foods will suit your needs and your goals at that time.
Perfect segue into what I want to talk about next. But first, I do want to actually touch on that as well. And that's the thing, like, you don't have to eat different from your family. Your family doesn't have to eat different from you. If your husband is being impossible, then okay, he can either make his own food. You're not, like, women don't need to do the cooking all the freaking time. And it's like we've given ourselves this title of, I'm doing the traditional job of being a woman. Well, hey, you're probably also a mum. You probably also work full time. You don't need to be doing the cooking all of the time, but you can still cook for the fit kids. Get the kids involved. Maybe if there's something you're cooking that the husband likes, you can cook some for him as well. But the family doesn't have to eat different. You can cook the same, but different. For example, if you're making yourself like a burrito bowl, for example, yours might be without a wrap. Your husband's might be with the wrap. And the kids might be with the wrap, which you put into the air fryer and made nacho chips out of them. Or you don't even have to bother with that. You just get them like little actual nacho chips and give them nacho chips. Like same, but different. Yep. And you did mention making a shopping list with the foods that you enjoy. Now, with my clients, some of them that are bothered are on macros. Most of them are on a meal plan. Now, what I say is figure out how you want to create these meals. I don't give you like actual meals with cooking ingredients and recipes. I give you ingredients. Play with them. There's all these different lean proteins that you can play with. Maybe for 2 weeks you do just turkey. Maybe the next 2 weeks you're like, I feel like chicken. Maybe the next 2 weeks you feel like kangaroo or tuna or fish. But play with it. But also don't try to be a master chef, because I feel like people that try to complicate things or change things too much end up back at square one, where it's decision fatigue. And then it's like, as soon as you do things once, it's like you're giving yourself permission to keep doing it. If you give yourself permission once to change something crazily, then you're going to keep wanting to make changes and then overwhelm yourself, and then end up back to having no meal plan, being scattered, being overwhelmed, and wondering what the fuck to do with your food. So keep shit simple, keep shit repetitive and consistent, and only change it when you need to. But change up the proteins, change up the veggies, change up the same type of things so it's same but different. With me, I keep it all the same except the flavorings I put with it. Sometimes it's lemon, sometimes it's lime, sometimes it's maple stevia drops, sometimes it's vanilla, because I don't have a sweet tooth. I have savory, but adding stevia drops just makes it perfect. Now that segue, the perfect segue. So we should not be in a fat loss phase for an extended period of time. We have to get in and get out, because unless of course you're starting off with a lot of body fat, then you can stay in it longer and you can keep going until you don't see results. Then you can make it go more aggressive, keep going, but then at some point you're going to have to pull out. But with all of that being said, you still have to periodize your nutrition. And with that, you actually touched on this in one of your posts, and I put it down there as well, is sometimes restrictions are needed in order to be successful in certain situations. Too much restriction can lead to negative behaviors. So you also need to be realistic with your goals. This is perfect. That was perfectly quoted by Bolton, by the way. Restriction doesn't always have to be negative. Sometimes you need to restrict carbs. Sometimes you need to bring your carbs back. Sometimes you need to bring your calories back. But if it's bringing it too far back that it's causing you to binge or causing you to have cravings, your goals are unrealistic. You need to make the fat loss goal or restriction less. But at periods of time, it is needed. At periods of time, you need to say no to certain foods. At periods of time, okay, you cannot have those foods. Yeah, maybe sometimes you can eat whatever the foods you want because it fits in easily, but other times you can't, because it's more so, yeah, you can, but should you? And no, you shouldn't. If it's going to leave you hungry, gonna mean that you're going to be in a calorie deficit, but in a nutrient deficit as well, and not able to actually meet your protein. So maybe we can touch on that side of things about when do we need the restriction and all the stuff around that, with the avoidance of extremes, because sometimes we like to go too much into extremes.
Yeah. I mean, right now we love extremes. There seems to be extremes everywhere we go. But I think if we're talking about restriction, then there needs to be times where there is kind of controlled restriction throughout, no matter where you want to be. Let's say we're not talking about food now. Let's say you want to improve your lifestyle. You have to probably have a look at and how often you're going out, or maybe looking at the social circle that you hang around in. You may have to restrict certain elements of your known life to improve on your lifestyle and have a better life. So that's not just talking about the foods, but restrictions come in many different ways. If you want to improve on your career, then you may have to not go out every weekend. You may have to spend more time studying and trying to improve on your career. When it comes to foods, like you said, we have to think about where we want to be. So where we're at, where we want to be, and that periodized approach to nutrition and training. Now, maybe we don't have a specific goal. We just want to live healthy. We have a longevity aspect to our goal. We just want to be able to move well, eat well, look good, and play with the kids and have a long life. It's a generalistic goal, but it is doable, right? So we need to look at, okay, what foods cause me problems? Maybe I can't eat as much dairy as I want, because when I have dairy, it causes me problems like, gastric problems, or, stomach issues and stuff like that, or I just get real phlegmy and it causes me problems. So, okay, you have to restrict the dairy, but this is for health. Some people will say, okay, you need dairy to build muscle in a performance or a muscle gain program, and that can work well, but you have to be able to live with the consequences maybe. So restriction can come in many different forms, I think. And again, we just have to look at the individual. We have to look at where they're at, where they're going to go and how they're going to get there. You know, and it doesn't always have to be a negative. You know, people tend to think that you don't need restriction. Dieting restriction is bad. It will cause you problems, but not all the time. You know, we have to think in terms of longevity within the dieting process or within the actual nutritional protocol or the lifestyle, the lifespan of this and the habits built on that. I was actually having a discussion the other day with one of my clients, and she feels like she only has one protein bar a day, but she doesn't want to rely on this protein bar. She feels like the protein bar is causing her to create this negative habit with having this protein bar. And we talked about, we said, what is the other option? And the other option is to, you know, we have two other options. The other option is making a smaller meal that is more substantial, you know, some veggies and some protein and stuff. Well, she said, I have the protein bar because it stops me from going down to the cafeteria and picking up something from the cafeteria. And I said, well, what happens if you go to the cafeteria and pick something up? She said, well, the choices aren't great. And if I choose something from there, I'm more likely to get something else as well. So then that restriction is now positive because the other option is going to the cafeteria, having something that's not aligned with the goal, and then having something else. She's like, so beforehand, she was going to the cafeteria, taking a muffin, but also then getting a latte with it or something else. So now we've gone from a 200 calorie protein bar to a 400 calorie muffin and a 400 calorie latte, and now we're not aligned with the goal. So that restriction of not going to the cafeteria, but addition of a protein bar is actually a positive thing. So talking through that with her, now she's okay with either having a protein bar or making a more substantial snack that stops her from going to the cafeteria and choosing these bad options or not so favorable options, should I say.
Oh yeah, that it's everything in, like, it's your perception, it's the way that you see it, and people don't question themselves enough, and they'll hold this belief, this idea in their head until others question them for them, or they make themselves realize, as in like someone else makes them realize, hey, what you're doing, it's not actually forming a negative habit, it's actually a positive habit, because the alternative is taking you away from the person you want to become. And there are other alternatives. You just choose not to put the time into making that meal. You're choosing not to meal prep, but the options are there, and the alternative is worse. So this is the better option. It's not the best option, but it's the better. And sometimes better is good enough. And another thing that you were saying is restriction isn't always bad. And I guess this is where it also comes into the terminology we use, because it's not really restriction, it's restraint. We're restraining ourselves. Like, restriction has a negative connotation. Discipline has a negative connotation to some, but discipline isn't deprivation. It's knowing that you can have it, but you're disciplined not to. It's not restricting yourself. It's knowing that you can have it, but you're restraining from it. It's knowing your personality type. Like, way back, like even now, actually, if I can't have a whole lot of a food option, I'm not going to buy it. So I'm restraining from it because I'm not satisfied with a kid's like a cereal box serving of cereal. I want a freaking Ruby serving, and a Ruby serving is a huge serving. So I'm not going to buy cereal or even try to include it into my diet unless I can have a massive serving whilst still being satisfied with all my other meals. And I'm much more satisfied with the meals I have now, because even a big bowl of cereal doesn't satisfy me, because I'm not really that much of it's kind of like a sweet meal, but I'm not that much of a sweet person. So I'm actually back to just doing savory now. As much as I love my cereal, I love my savory more. So it's like we were touching on not going to either end of the extreme. So it's great that I love the fact that you mentioned the health person. So there are different people with different goals. If you have health as a goal, yeah, you can fit pretty much everything in, because you're not trying to get down to a lower body fat percentage. You're not trying to push your body so far out of homeostasis. You're just trying to improve upon what you have. And when it does come to a point where, okay, we need to restrain, restrict, whatever from something, your mind shouldn't just go to, I'm going to be hungry, I'm going to have to cut all of this out. We need to stop going to all these different extremes, and we need to realize we can exist on a spectrum. It just means cutting it down a little bit or going up a little bit. So realize that there is a spectrum. Now, when it comes to the importance of, I guess, stress now around food, and you touch on meal timing, but in a different way, where it's not the timing of our meals itself, but it's something that can help us, I guess, make our bodies respond to the digestive process better. Because well, I'll let Matt go into it, but how exactly do we talk about meal timing here with you?
So for me, a lot of the times when we talk about meal timing, we talk about how you are eating the food as opposed to when you are eating the food. Because, we are, we look at how you eat is more important than when you eat, especially if we're looking for health and weight loss. Most of the time, it doesn't matter when you eat, as long as your total daily energy is in line with the goals. So you're eating less calories than you're expending and stuff. So less for that, as long as if you are not digesting your food properly, it really doesn't matter when you eat the food. We have to make sure that we are digesting and assimilating properly, because just eating the food doesn't mean anything's going to happen properly inside. So we may think that we're eating 1,500, 1,600 calories, whatever it may be, but actually we're only digesting and assimilating half that. So if we're trying to push ourselves to the limits and thinking that we're dieting, and all of a sudden we're feeling really fatigued and really drained and exhausted, then we're actually need to take a step back and look at the meal timing in terms of, how are we chewing the food? Are we sitting down, and are we being relaxed? Are we rushing? Are we eating in a stress state or not? And I think that's more important than when, is looking at how you are eating. Are we chewing the food properly to a nice squishy bolus, so that it is because we know that not everybody knows, right? That digestion starts in the mouth. If you chew your food properly and you get your mouth, you chew it down to this squishy consistency that is easier to swallow, instead of trying to swallow your food like a boa constrictor, just opening your mouth and just trying to slide it down, your stomach's going to have a lot of work to do with that. So if we can chew our food more effectively, and allow the stomach to just break down the remaining, we're going to be able to digest and assimilate a lot more of those nutrients that we need to be able to reach whatever goal we have. And also, making sure that you are not rushed. Don't rush the food. Just maybe you have to set aside some time, 10, 15 minutes, distraction free. It's really important as well. We have a relation with what we are doing with when we are eating. So if we associate food and watching Netflix or watching a movie or watching Instagram, we can also negatively or positively impact what we are doing with that food as well. If we are seeing and watching Instagram and wishing that we were somebody else, as most people do on Instagram, they don't just flick through for good information. They sit there and be like, oh man, I wish I was doing this and I wish I was doing that. You are now assigning food to this negative emotion, and now you're not going to enjoy that food. You may then go across and be like, oh, this meal, I don't like this meal anymore. But beforehand, you were enjoying it left, right, and center. And if we are consuming food when we are watching TV or Netflix or something, and we're having this positive dopamine hit through our eyes as well as with the food, then we are always trying to reach this new level of high. And I think if we are distraction free and we are able to enjoy the food and the smells, the tastes, the textures more, I think a lot more people will be able to reach their goals a lot more easily.
The impact of stress on digestion is such a big thing, and you touched on the fact that, okay, we may be eating this meal, but we may not be absorbing it. And it's like, it's not the fact that we're not absorbing the calories that is concerning, it's the fact that we're not absorbing the nutrients that come with it. And it's the nutrients that come with it that assist fat loss, that assist muscle gain. And if your gut is in a poor state, you actually cannot perform well. You cannot build muscle effectively. Your body isn't getting the nutrients it needs from the food to actually assist muscle growth. And this is where people really just sideswipe stress management, all of these inner work things, because it seems stupid. It really does seem stupid to the naked eye. But when you really know what it is doing and how it is sabotaging your progress, you will actually pay a lot more attention to it and do the stress management that you should be doing. And I cannot express it enough that stress management is the key to unleashing your best results, because it's going to allow you to absorb the nutrients, to assist in the fat burning process, to assist in the muscle building process, and it's also going to assist your mood. Now, I really want to touch on this to end the conversation with such force, because it is the most important part. But how exactly is stress holding a lot of people back, and what would you usually say about it? What are your tips around it to mitigating it, like mints, for example?
So, it's like, I think from an understanding of stress, people just don't understand what is stressing them out. We often hear this term, oh, I'm so stressed out, and people refer to it as maybe somebody is stressing them out, or work is stressing them out. And they don't realize that all of these things have the same physiological effect on us. They don't realize that hard dieting, just cutting out one single food group, carbohydrates usually, doing a bunch of training, and partying on the other end, or having deadlines at work, and all of these things, they affect us in exactly the same way from a stress response. And when you start layering all these things on top of each other, the body only has so much it can handle before it has to start to slow down and break down, and start to adjust to the stresses that you apply. One thing that I do that is kind of instrumental in the beginning stage is just get to people understand what factors of stress are being applied in their lifestyle and in their life, and not just training. So we take the training and everything out of it, but we just look at all these other factors. What time are they going to bed? Are they getting restful sleep? Or have they been trying to diet within the last 3 to 6 months? Have they been trying anything extreme? Were they cutting out food groups? Are they doing these fastings out of nowhere? They just start to implement all these dietary tools without any understanding. Have they started a new exercise regime? Are they doing more high intensity interval training? Have they just started CrossFit? Have they started resistance training or an endurance program, or all these sorts of things? Are they working online, or are they physically active during the day? All of these things that are, have we just gone down, some of my clients in the UK and one in Canada have just spent the last 19 months in quarantine. It was almost year and a half, pretty much. They weren't allowed, they weren't allowed to go to work. They had restrictions on the whole thing. So it was some form of like quarantine or lockdown for almost a year and a half. So that there, with so one of my clients, he had just left his job, retired. He was a military guy, so he retired early. But they had just had a new baby. His wife is self-employed hairdresser with her own studio, but she couldn't go to work during the lockdown and the restrictions. So he's just finished. He couldn't go to the gym or anything. So he just finished work. The gyms were closed and he couldn't go to the gym. So we had to adjust his training. Newborn baby as well. His wife couldn't go back to work. They just, and everything was all up in the air with whether he was going to be able to go into his new training for his new career after he's finished the army. And so all of those things compounded, and it's, that's more stress than a 60-minute training session, So we had to look at all of these factors that were applying all these stresses, and simply we took more low-level approaches. So we did a lot more breathing work, breathing mechanics, and we did some meditation work. And this is specific to him, it doesn't not always the same for everybody else. But again, going back to the way that he ate. So we were making sure that he was eating slowly, chewing his food and setting some time out, making sure that he was not rushing the food and not feeling like it was rushed, but he had time to eat and slow down throughout the meals. And then, we managed to create a low-level activity factor within his home, with the newborn baby, taking him around the house and up the stairs and walking. And he still managed to get 10,000 steps in walking around the house, but carrying his newborn daughter, which was much better for him than trying to hit a training session with whatever minimal equipment that he had in there. Some of the other stuff that we do is, some of the clients like to do yoga. It's just, that's their choice. The other side of the spectrum is getting steps in, just walking, listening to books, stuff that is not work related or TV based. I like to get people to get outside of Netflix. I like to get people outside of work related stuff. So completely off the spectrum of those two things. So if it's an audiobook or a podcast, it's got nothing to do with work, and it's got nothing to do with TV shows or anything like that. It's something that they enjoy and they want to learn more about. So it's like a hobby based podcast or a book or something like that. And I find that works really well, just taking them out of the kind of their stress zone and putting them more into their comfort zone, and getting them into a place where they just really enjoy being, and sometimes it's a little bit hard for them to get it going, but once they get going, it's like any other habit. They just have to start small and attach it to something that they already do and build on that consistently well over a short period of time. And then that short period becomes a long period. And before they know it, it's part of their lifestyle.
I love that part of how you try to manage where they are right now to make it something that isn't going to take them, like, sometimes it isn't just about raising the ceiling, it's about raising the floor. And something you said in there is the hobby, doing something that makes them happy. So it's find what brings you joy, find what makes you happy. You can call it a hobby, you can call it whatever you want, but find something that makes you happy and brings you joy and do more of it. And the more that you try to push the bubble, like you mentioned the word bubble, and I love it because it's like when you're stressed out, you feel like you're entrapped in a bubble and you need to pop it, because it's almost like you're just enclosed, you're stressed out within this bubble and you can't move. Or anything that you do, you're at risk of bursting your bubble, because nothing can burst your bubble, only you can. But it's like you're at risk of piercing the skin. So it's really important to I guess, ease yourself out of the bubble and realize that if you are going to shove on more dieting, shove on more training, you are only going to make the situation worse for yourself, and you're going to take yourself further away from your goals, because no matter how much activity you do, no matter how much you cut your food down, you are not going to see results with that because your body is in a stress state. It is not going to respond.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's important to note on that is like it's about being proactive versus reactive. So if you are proactive in the approach of stress management, like you start off by figuring out what is impacting my stress, what is making me stress, and then we are proactively looking at protocols to manage that, or ways in which we can manage, instead of being reactive and things being thrown at you and then you are just responding to it in a non-impactful way. You know, it's like you know, I can be very procrastinating. Like, I like to leave things to the last minute for some reason, but then it adds a bunch of stress onto me, and I don't know why I do it, but it's just something I do sometimes, not all the time, and it's not great for everybody. I don't recommend it, but you know, if we are waiting, if we know that something is supposed to be done, and we wait and we wait and we wait, and then we get all this stress because we haven't done it, and it's all of a sudden coming up, then we will be reactive to everything else that is coming towards us. You know, let's say, for instance, we've got something coming up at the end of the month, and we wait and we wait and we wait and we wait, and lo and behold, that's when your partner gets some bad news, or the baby gets sick, or the gyms get locked down again and you can't train, or, you know, all of these different things. You know, your favorite cereal isn't on the shops anymore, or something's gone crazy, you know, your show gets canceled. You know, all of these things are, now you're reactive to everything. But if we start looking at how can we be proactive in our management of time, lifestyle, stress, all of these things, it's going to make whatever goal, whatever lifestyle, whatever habit, whatever we want to build on, much, much easier to handle.
I love that. Proactivity. I think that's a really good thing for this, because if you're proactive in meal prep, for example, you have a higher chance of success. If you're proactive in knowing what's coming ahead in terms of, okay, I have this deadline, and actually planning it out. Like, you don't just plan your meals, you have to plan your life. I think that is the theme of it all. And I'm sure you see people who have plans in their life, they have a bigger chance of success. And don't go to an extreme of, I have this plan, I'm just stuck in it now. We need to stop thinking in terms of extremes. Like, no, the plan can be malleable. The plan can be changed as situations arise. But if you have no plan to go off to start with, you're left overwhelmed in your head. And leaving things in your head is it's gonna leave you more scattered, because you're not seeing it visually. And the power of pen to paper still is the most powerful thing you can do to organizing your thoughts, organizing your head, because we can't make sense of things that are still in our head.
I think it's for, you know, planning the life is just something that is it's not implemented enough for people. Like, we have, when people have jobs, you know, when they go to work, they're told that they need to be at work Monday to Friday between 9 and 5. But if they were told, oh, you need to be at work Monday to Friday, but come whenever you want, it would be everybody would be lost, because we actually like structure. We need structure. So why not be proactive and start implementing it with the meal planning, with the training, not only be proactive, you can build some structure, but you can also build flexibility into that structure. So it's not just a case of like, oh, I am going to train at 9 to 10. It's like, I'm going to get 1 hour of activity in today. You know, when can I fit that in? Oh, Wednesday I can do it at 4. Tuesday I can do it at 8. Thursday I can do it at 7. And, you know, now we're building this structure around our lifestyle and making it easier for us, you know, that we can do that and build upon creating a better sustainable change throughout.
I love that ending. I don't actually want to add anything more to that. That's actually perfect. It's about sustainability, proactivity, and having a structure, but having flexible structure, flexible restraint. It's about flexible restraint, flexible discipline, flexible dieting, flexible structure again, because that's what it's all about. So yeah, I'm gonna ask you now, because we all love our carbs. What is your favorite carb source?
Oh, I gotta be honest. I think I'm gonna have to say Cocoa Pops.
Cocoa Pops it is. On that note,
literally because if we're going from like a macronutrient standpoint, you can get a lot of Cocoa Pops for the carb content.
yeah, it is a volume.
Very, very.
It's the same with anything poppy. Like you can easily say rice bubbles and it's the same thing, but it's not Cocoa Pops. It's just not Cocoa Pops. And that's the reason why I always pick Weet-Bix, because it does the same thing and it expands.
Yeah.
What is your favorite go-to breakfast?
It's the one I have every single day, regardless, and I change it up. The only thing I change on it is the volume, or whether or not it's egg whites or egg yolks. So I always have eggs, and then I have oatmeal with either blueberries or banana, and then I have a 0-calorie sweetener that I put on top of that.
So as you can hear from that, he mentioned eggs, he mentioned oats. The reason I really wanted to touch on breakfast is eggs and oats. What can you make with eggs and oats? Oh, I don't know, pancakes. You can, it's having the same foods different ways. It's the same but different. And Bolts loves his pancakes. You can make pancakes every day. Change the fruit to use on it every single day. It's a different flavor. You can have eggs plus oats. You can have them mashed together. So there's another one over there. Now, if you could only have one meal, only one meal for a whole week, no other meal, what would it be and why?
Wow, you put me on the spot with this one. I like one meal every day for a week.
All of your meals.
Man, I'm gonna have to choose the vanilla and blueberry pancakes from Macro Kitchen. It's gonna have to be. Yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else, but the pancakes fit for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's one of my favorites.
I love that. Hey, see, carbs aren't all that bad. What exactly is the macro content and components within your favorite pancakes?
Okay. Give me a second, because I don't know it off by heart, but it is on our Instagram. It is 33 grams of protein, 42 grams of carbohydrates, and 7 grams of fats.
That sounds like the perfect match in heaven. Low fat, high carb means you can pretty much, because one thing that people forget to take note of is every gram of fat is 9 calories. Every gram of carbs is 4 calories. So why not have more carbs in your pancakes than fats? And you can have more of them. I actually have to say, I love my tuna bake with cheese, with either, you can swap potato or rice, tuna, and you can swap the veggies, green beans, carrot, broccoli, cauliflower. Like, that's the magic of the same but different. So
I think with the pancakes can be the same. I can chuck in some chicken and some maple syrup.
They do have chicken and waffles in Texas.
Chicken and waffles. Yep.
I've never tried chicken and waffles, so I don't really know how it goes. It actually sounds pretty good because I love my chicken.
Really good. Chicken and waffles with some maple syrup. You got to make sure the chicken is spicy as well, though.
Maple syrup or honey?
Maple syrup.
Me too. I
Maple
hate honey. I love maple syrup. Perfect. Well, I will leave this podcast here. We touched on so much, including our favorite carbs. Where would people find your kitchen and your Instagram itself?
So for Macro Kitchen, it's Macro Kitchen _Bali. We're solely on Instagram at the minute. So if you just look for Macro Kitchen, one word, _Bali, you'll see us there. For me, I'm mostly on Instagram as well, which is bolts _IHP, which stands for Integrative Health and Performance, if anybody's interested. But my name on Instagram will actually come up as New Body Athletics. I know it's very confusing. Sorry.
Not really, because we all want new body, and integrative health is what we literally just spoke about. So that's perfect. And if you liked the podcast, give it a rating and review and share it to your Instagram stories. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, guys.